Welcome to AdventureSphere. This channel is dedicated to missing people who are missing with a vehicle. In the process of creating this database, we are creating a volunteer sonar search and recovery dive team to search for the people featured on our channel. Our services are free of charge. We ask you to consider subscribing, watch our content, and help spread awareness of our endeavor. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline can be reached by dialing 988 or 1-800-273-8255. Calls are free and confidential. Dorothy Pauline Carboni was born in 1935 to Anthony and Christine. Dorothy had a sister, Mary, who was 1 year older. Mary passed away in 2008. Dorothy married and took her husband's last name, Goroshko. Her eldest son, Rick, was born when she was 18. He was 14 when Dorothy vanished. Before she vanished, Dorothy blessed Rick with two brothers, John and Anthony. Dorothy and her children lived in the 50 block of Monastery Road in Brighton, Massachusetts, when their lives would change forever. There are 3 sides to every story. While we may never know how the chapter came to an end that evening, it is time to end the cliffhanger and help her children and grandchildren write a beautiful ending for her story. The chapter told by law enforcement is that on the evening of Wednesday, June 4th, 1975, Dorothy Goroshko went out with some girlfriends to a place called the Penalty Box, located at 65 Causeway Street, for some drinks. It closed over a decade ago and is now called the Causeway. As their evening was coming to an end and they had shared their goodbyes, the mystery would begin. Police last placed her in the North Station area of Boston, near the old Boston Garden at 150 Causeway Street. Dorothy's girlfriends said nothing seemed wrong. There were, however, 2 possible sightings of her later in the evening. The first was at Sandstone, which was directly across the street from the penalty box, and one later at the Coliseum near Haymarket. It appeared she went alone. No one remembers her being with anyone. Was she accosted by someone and made the wrong decision? There is an unsolved murder of Ruth Bela Pearson that happened a couple months later in August 1975, but her body was discovered in a field and her car was burned out. She drove a red 1972 Camaro. Ruth, however, frequented bars and restaurants north of where Dorothy was. If they were in fact killed by the same person, did hiding Dorothy and her vehicle prove to be too hard, so she went and just burned the car? I'm thinking she's underwater somewhere myself. If Dorothy is in water, was it accidental? Perhaps parked somewhere just to reflect about life and then hit the gas instead of the brakes and went in not accidentally? An investigator believed her to be struggling financially. Was that enough of a motive to intentionally go into water? The weather June 4th saw a high of 66 and a low of 54. There was rain when the bars were closing from midnight to 5 a.m. However, it was a light rain. The clouds could have made it a bit darker than she was accustomed to. How were the treads on her tires? She may have hydroplaned and slid into water somewhere. Did Dorothy perhaps go drive around where she grew up? There's a decent-sized water bodies there Dorothy could have ended up in. There's even a quarry, too. Dorothy was driving a 2-door golden black 1970 Ford Maverick with Massachusetts license plates 9K7755. Her sons and police believe she was the victim of a crime. The Boston Police Department is investigating. They can be reached at 617-343-4500. Dorothy's case number is 614718. Another version of the night. Give you a little bit of background so this gets worked in. Dorothy was seen a man, John F. Paulton. He goes by Jack. He is a convicted felon. Prior to them meeting, Jack lived in Florida, where he was convicted of armed robbery in Jacksonville. At some point, Jack met Ardella Stanford, who was a mother of a 2-year-old girl, Mary Jane. When Ardella arrived home in Marshfield, I believe it's the town up in... There's a Marshfield in Florida and a Marshfield in New Jersey. I believe this happened in New Jersey. But so he is convicted of armed robbery. At some point, he met Ardella Stanford, who was a mother of the 2-year-old Mary Jane. When Ardella arrived home in Marshfield, about 25 miles, southeast of Boston, as the crow flies, she observed her daughter unconscious with welts on her bottom. Jack was looking after Mary Jane that day. Ardella performed CPR on her baby, but she was too late. Jack drove the trio a few miles where Ardella watched her daughter's stepfather bury her in a shallow grave. The next day, Mary Jane was reported missing from the back of her home. Over 500 volunteers searched for the deceased baby. Weeks later, Ardella told police that Jack beat her daughter to death. Ardella led police to Mary Jane's makeshift grave. After Jack was convicted of manslaughter for the December 31st killing of his stepdaughter, Ardella arranged for her baby to be laid to rest where her biological father, Cecil Stanford, lived. Cecil passed away in 2010. Ardella married her final husband, Dale Luce, and lived a long life, passing away in 2016 in her home state of Michigan. I don't know how Dorothy and Jack came to meet. Dorothy's sons would see him at their home when he was granted prison furloughs. They said he didn't treat her right. When police questioned Jack about that evening, he said they had been drinking for hours and he broke up with her. Then things start to get fuzzy. He told police that he walked from Brighton to Roslindale. It's approximately 7 miles away from where Dorothy was living. Dorothy was driving behind him, yelling at him, and trying to hit him with her car. Jack said he learned of Dorothy's disappearance at MCA Norfolk when suddenly his work release job was suspended. He said he couldn't understand why. About a week later, the job was restored. Jack wished he knew information about Dorothy's disappearance to ease her son's burden. Police have not named Jack as a suspect. Is it because he was incarcerated during the window of her disappearance? Was his job at the state hospital suspended because a contract ran out and the government was waiting for the funding payment? Did authorities pose questions in a way that made Jack feel compelled to tell them something, even if inaccurate? Was Jack under stress for so long that the memories just bled together? Jack spoke with a newspaper reporter in 2019 and described the incident of when Dorothy chased him in her car. He tried to get away from her by taking a shortcut through the Arnold Arboretum in Jamaica Plain. He never saw her again after that walk back to his family home. Jack also said that wasn't the night that she disappeared. It was 9 years between his stepdaughter's death and Dorothy's disappearance. Witnesses didn't see Dorothy with any man that evening. Witnesses said they didn't see Jack. Jack buried his stepdaughter a few miles from home. It would stand to reason that if he did have something to do with Dorothy's disappearance, she would be within a few miles of his destination that evening or morning. Where was Jack that evening? I'm thinking he was actually incarcerated, so it's off the table. But let me give you an example of what I was talking about a little earlier with Jack's memory possibly bleeding together. Authorities released a contemporary missing flyer. In it, the poster states, quote, "In this photo, she was 36 years of age," unquote. The next image lists 3 of 5 articles stating Dorothy was 36 when she disappeared, but she was actually 40. We could chalk up the inaccuracy as overworked staff who didn't take the time to digest the information being disseminated. Investigators may have rapid-fired questions at Jack, or he simply misunderstood the question. If Jack was with her, he may have drank so much that he couldn't summon his memories accurately. I'm on the fence as to if she was murdered. Jack was convicted of killing someone who couldn't defend herself. He needed to get some sort of weapon when robbing adults. It was also right around this time that he entered the quiet of his life. I hope when Dorothy's located, we will learn what happened, that justice is served, and that her family can give her a proper burial that they desire. If any of her friends or family see this, this information may help us locate her. I'm looking for her exact work address, if she did work, and possibly the hours that she worked there. Did she volunteer anywhere, attend church? Did Dorothy give any possessions away in the month or two before she disappeared? Does Dorothy prefer to drive on main roads or back roads? Did she place any calls to her mechanic or her car insurance in the day or two before she disappeared? Does Dorothy have any chronic health issues, such as being diabetic, have seizures, any cardiac issues? I know she was a smoker. And then what was the place of her last verified financial transaction? Verified being using a check out of her checkbook or a debit card or a credit card. The places I'm going to mention next are shared with my blessing, so Dorothy can be reunited with her family, regardless who higher powers work through. The description box has her email address if you'd like to share insight on any cold case, know someone missing with a vehicle and would like them featured on our channel and searched for, or to donate equipment. The video of Google Earth that you're watching has a measurement from our current best starting location, which was the penalty box bar, and it goes out to possible search areas. We focus on bodies of water within 5 miles of their last known location and within 5 miles of their destination. If an area has been heavily searched, we may expand the search area, but please keep in mind that accidents tend to happen closer to home. So, closer to the penalty box, we have the Mystic River, Old Harbor, Dorchester Bay Basin, the Neponset River, Jamaica Pond, Ward's Pond, Willow Pond, Leverett Pond. Then there's the Justine Mee Lift Park. This is in a very busy intersection, it looks like, so if she did fall into the water here, I would think somebody would have seen it, but it's probably in the wee hours of the morning. Maybe the place already cleared out by then. There's Higginson Circle, which is right next to the park, the Charles River, Chestnut Hill Reservoir, the Brookline Reservoir. Spot Pond is about 6 miles out. I don't think it's likely, but if we need other areas to search. There's Wright's Pond and Fresh Pond. And then a little bit later in the video here, we're going to take a look from if she actually got closer to her home address, what are water bodies within 5 miles of home. Some of it does overlap, but there is also Kendrick Pond, Purgatory Cove. The road is right on the side of the water. There would have been no tree line there to prevent her from going in. There's also Sargent's Pond, Hammond Pond, Crystal Lake, Bullows Pond, I believe it's pronounced. And then there's a pond at the Brayburn Country Club. This water here is pretty close to the road as well. And you also want to, when you're looking at the map here, when we're scrolling around, we need to remember that we're looking at the topography as it was in 1970, not the beautiful full-grown mature trees that we're seeing on it right now. If you'd like to help Dorothy's family find her, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and ring the notification bell to receive progress reports. I'm going to let the video play out here a few more minutes in case you want to see the entire search area. If you see something I missed, please let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and remember that we love you.